Welcome to Rise and Thrive Women, journeying from surviving to thriving after abuse. We're your hosts, Susie and Heather, and we are so glad you're here. If you've experienced the heartbreak of toxic relationships, you know the feeling of being lost, broken, and unsure of where to turn next. And this show is for you.
We're here to inspire, educate, and empower women like you, no matter where you are on your healing journey. Together, we will challenge misconceptions surrounding domestic abuse, explore practical solutions, and listen to incredible survivor stories that remind us all that there is a brighter, better future waiting for you. It's time to rise, thrive, and choose yourself. Let's begin this healing journey together.
All right. Yay. Thanks for being here tonight, ladies. It's kind of a different time for us to be doing our show, but we're so excited to introduce our amazing guest, Kel. But before we kick things off, I did just want to mention a special project that Heather and I have been working on, and it's a membership program that we recently launched, and it's called Rise and Thrive Women. It's a private, safe, empowering space for women who are either navigating abusive relationships and working to leave those relationships or are healing from narcissistic abuse and abusive relationships. So within that membership, we offer bi-monthly support groups, lots of resources, and a safe and supportive community to help you rise and thrive. So we have that linked in the show notes here, and Heather has a link to that in her bio as well. We're offering a free 7-day trial right now for that. So I just wanted to mention that because we're super excited to kick that off and check it out. Try that free 7-day trial if you're interested. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Kel. Kel is a life transformation coach and spiritual mentor, as well as a keynote speaker, best-selling author of the book, How I Cured My Resting Bitch Face, which I think is still my favorite book title I've ever heard. And there it is. And she's also a podcast host. She formerly hosted her show, Dear Dumb Bitch, but she's going to be kind of relaunching that this summer, right, Kel? So stay tuned for that. So a little bit more about Kel, and then I'll turn it over to her to talk a little bit more about herself. But Kel thought she was living her dream life in sunny South Florida, but in reality, she was miserable and living a secret life in an emotionally abusive and toxic AF marriage. In 2018, she decided to move across the country to restart her life, and she has since transformed every aspect of it. In 2023, she moved across the world to create her life and now lives in Bali, where she offers online coaching, mentoring, and programs that help women transform their lives and by transforming their relationship with themselves, using toxic relationships as a catalyst for unlocking their higher self, transcend trauma and patterns from the past, rise above self-sabotage, and elevate their mindset so they can stop settling, fall in love with themselves, and create their lives that they are obsessed with. So you're up to so many amazing things, and we're so glad to have you here. Like I said, first of all, we just want to hear more about you, kind of what brought you here. What does your life look like today? So you can share as much or as little as you'd like with us tonight.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I love to share, overshare. But Susie and Heather, it's truly such an honor to be here with you. And I was listening to that beautiful, beautiful introduction, and I'm just like, wow, keynote speaker, best-selling author, lives in Bali. Like, who is she? And I want to start this off by just acknowledging that it's so easy to see people that you perhaps look up to or admire. I know I have people that I like really just see as like role models for me and really just have a lot of respect and appreciation for. And it's so easy to see people, especially on the internet, and to just assume that they've always been this version of themselves and always been living this life that they are now living. And I am here to remind you that that is 100% not true. So I will be sharing a bit about my journey today and how I got to this place of living in Bali, of being a best-selling author and a mentor for women and a speaker. And none of this was like part of the original plan for myself and my life, but it was what life had in plan for me. So my journey really began. I'm going to kind of start like at the end, which was really just the beginning. And then there's going to be some childhood mentioned because that's really what's kind of dictating our entire reality, whether we consciously know it or not. So, my journey really began in 2018 when I made the decision to leave an emotionally abusive and toxic as fuck marriage. And at the time, I really thought I was living my dream life, like leading up to this, because I lived in sunny South Florida. I had this beautiful house that was paid off and remodeled to perfection. Like literally, like I like HGTV'd my home. Like I found out I could
Mm,
take down a wall and like do all the things. I'm like, oh, now my home is perfect. Now I drive a Porsche. I have the perfect car. My hair is perfect. I have abs. I have all the things. And I'm like, but why am I miserable? And I was just very confused. And I knew the relationship that I was in was not healthy. I didn't realize how abusive it was until I actually left. And unless you've been in this type of relationship, you might not really, like, that might not make sense to you. Like, how did you not know? But that's the thing with emotional abuse. It just distorts your entire sense of reality. You don't know what's up and what's down. So, my life was just continuing to escalate and spiral out of control. And it reached a place where I just felt like I needed to immediately escape. Like I felt like I couldn't stay in my life a second longer. So I asked my husband at the time for permission to visit my sister in Washington. And, if you feel like you need permission to live your life, that's a big red flag that you're not living your life. You're living somebody else's life. And again, I had
mhm,
no awareness of this at the time whatsoever. I I didn't understand how I had given him my personal power. I thought that was what being a good partner was, like just letting someone like take that power over you. And it progressed over time. We initially met and it was February of 2009. I had just gotten my heart broken by the man that I thought was like my happily ever after right before Valentine's Day. And then I met this man who was a full rebound relationship that just kept going. It just kept going. We met in February, we were engaged in September. It never
mm,
fully felt right, but I just kept going along with it. I knew, like deep down in my heart, I intuitively knew we would end up divorced one day. Like this was not going to end
mm.
well. All the red
Yeah.
flags were there. I could see them. I just didn't know that they were red flags. I didn't trust that they were red flags. They were familiar. They were familiar to my nervous system. They were
Mm,
familiar to my attachment strategies and my childhood trauma that I had no awareness of. So,
yeah.
fast forward to now, it's March of 2018. And I get permission to take this trip. And from the moment I arrived at the airport, I knew there was no way I could ever go back to the life I once lived because I felt freedom for the first time, freedom to make my own decisions. I could decide like if I want a margarita or a coffee. And I just knew there was no way I could ever go back. So, spend the 2 weeks in Washington State with my sister. I did communicate that I would be proceeding with filing for divorce, get back to Florida, try to go to my house to like get my belongings. I'm now locked out. My dream house felt a lot less dreamy when I was locked out of it.
Mm,
Finally get
yeah.
access. I'm literally packing my shit in garbage bags. And then I drive off in my Porsche, go to the lawyer, file for divorce. Next day, I go to the bank to figure out my finances because I was not prepared for any of this. I did not have a plan in place. And if you are in this type of relationship, your safety always matters first. Sometimes there isn't time for a plan. But if you can have some type of plan in place, it would probably be supportive, but also just acknowledging like when you're in these relationships, your nervous system is so dysregulating, dysregulated, you're experiencing trauma, you're living in survival mode. Your brain isn't really operating logically to like make plans and things like that. But I went to
Mhm.
the bank and will never forget the look on the bank teller's face when she's pulling up account after account of our joint accounts and telling me that the balance is all zero. So I literally
Oh,
went broke overnight. I
wow.
am very grateful I had the support of my family because otherwise, like, I would have been in a very a challenging situation would have been even more challenging.
Yeah.
So then I returned my Porsche, which I could no longer afford, fly back across the country to restart my life in every possible way. So I move in with my sister. And I declared to the universe that this is the beginning of my journey of self love and self discovery. And I didn't know how, but I was determined that this was not going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me. And that somehow it would be the catalyst to this like second chance in life, to create a life where like I actually feel like I matter and where like I actually love myself and I prioritize myself. And I'm not like sitting on the sidelines of my own life, being the cheerleader for the opposing team is what it felt like. I felt like I was literally like trying to like be the
Yeah.
cheerleader for someone who was against me. Um,
Mm.
Knew that I needed to heal from the relationship, did not even understand the complexity of that. I joined a domestic violence support group, and I can remember sitting in the very first session of this domestic violence support group, and I'm listening to all the other women share their stories, and most of them had experienced physical abuse, and I just had this sense of feeling like I don't belong here, and it was this sense of like I don't belong here anywhere in my life, but especially not here. I wasn't physically harmed, and I actually expressed that when it was my turn to introduce myself, and I was lovingly informed that no, what I experienced is actually a form of domestic violence. And just because I wasn't physically harmed, emotional abuse actually can sometimes be longer to heal than like a
Right.
broken arm or a black eye. Yeah.
because it's
So I
harder to
Absolutely.
stayed.
identify.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
I stayed in that group. It was a beautiful resource for me. I was also seeing multiple therapists, multiple days a week, but just doing the traditional like talk therapy. And that's like I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, which I was. And talk therapy can be really supportive, but looking back, I can really see how I was barely scratching the surface of the deep-rooted trauma that I was holding on to. So I didn't really have, like, the understanding of, like, how to heal from this. And if I'm fully honest, like, I kind of sucked at healing from the trauma of this relationship, and it's not something that you're supposed to be good at, right? There's no, like, manual. This is the guide
Right.
on how to heal from an abusive relationship. Fortunately, now there's women who have gone through it, not fortunate that we've gone through it, but fortunate that we're able to now provide those support and resources, because if I knew what I know now then, my healing journey would have looked a lot different, because I really got busy just rebuilding my life and trying to think my way out of healing. So
Hmm.
fast forward to developing all kinds of coping mechanisms, eating disorders, substance abuse. I was snorting Adderall every single morning because it helped me just numb out and I could be more productive, and compulsive exercising and really anything and everything to avoid myself and to avoid my
Hmm.
emotions and to just suppress and push it all down. And that
Yeah.
really reached a peak in 2020 when the pandemic happened, and I was forced to be alone with myself, which was literally my greatest fear. But it became the greatest blessing, because being with myself, I was forced to stop running from myself. And I really began to see how much trauma I was still holding on to and carrying. And I spent every single day of the summer of 2020 on a beach in Washington, and just naturally started to use practices to begin to support and regulate my nervous system, and really began to see what I was still carrying and holding on to. And that's when I realized that the most toxic relationship of all wasn't the relationship with the man I was married to, it was the relationship with me. I literally recreated the life I was living, but with myself. Instead of being
Hmm.
controlled by another person, I was being controlled by myself. He was just a mirror. And I did not have the awareness of that at that point in time. So that's really when my healing journey just started to go deeper and started to incorporate a spiritual aspect as well, and really led to understanding my nervous system, healing my nervous system, using somatics as a form of healing, because healing happens in the body. It doesn't happen in the mind. We cannot think our way out. And we can talk
Hmm.
about that a little bit more detail, but developing the relationship with my inner child and really beginning to understand the childhood trauma that really led me to this relationship in the first place. And this isn't about blaming our parents, right? It's about taking responsibility for our experience and if you're listening to this and, depending on where you're at in your healing journey, like if you had told me, like when I first left, like the most toxic relationship, oh, it's the one with you, I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. Like I have PTSD, excuse me, right?
Mhm.
But it really is this personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is not the same as blame. It's not the same as shame. But when we can really get honest with ourselves and to recognize that we're the common denominator in our life, that's when we step back into our power, because that's when we can actually make changes. So once I really started to do like the deep inner work that I had been avoiding, because I didn't really like, I didn't know that that's what I was like, that was even a thing. And also I didn't have the support and the resources to access it. But that's when everything began to shift. Like, that's when life actually began to feel different. And that's when I changed careers, realized like my true soul's purpose, not to sell houses. I was still doing real estate in Washington at the time, but it was to really support and guide other women on their journey of self love and self discovery and healing. And that's when I was guided just by my own intuition to move to Bali. And that's when I moved to Bali and wrote my book and became a speaker, and just everything began to unfold after that.
I
Oh,
love that, Kel.
So
that's
that's
amazing.
yeah, a bit of a Cliff
Wow.
Notes
I do want
version
to say
of how
one
I got here.
thing. So some of the stuff for those who are watching, what Kel was just describing when she was talking about taking accountability for your healing and taking accountability of the part that we play with these relationships or in these relationships, it's taking accountability for healing is not the same as victim blaming
Yeah.
or victim shaming. And it's really, I can understand how people can get confused with the two. Um, because we are all victims. We all feel the pain of being victimized, but taking accountability for healing is more so building the foundation necessary to ensure that that isn't the forward path, right? Like
Yeah.
building boundaries, learning to love yourself and your self-worth and not settling or accepting anything. Like that's part of the healing work that she was talking about. Sorry, Kel.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, no,
absolutely.
thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because, it really it feels like such a nuance, and the discernment between it feels a bit more obvious depending
Yeah.
on where you are in your
Yeah.
healing journey as well. There are phases to healing as well. Like our healing and supporting our nervous system, always like number one priority. But yeah, absolutely. Like responsibility is not the same as making this assumption that you deserved it or it was your fault, or that it's not that at all. It's looking at that sucked. Like, right? That was probably one of
Mhm.
the most difficult and worst experiences of your entire life, perhaps. It certainly felt like that for me. And choosing, okay, that's not going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me. Choosing your
Mhm.
healing. That's really
Mhm.
what accountability and responsibility is.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I so appreciate you sharing your story. And I think just that little summary of what brought you here and kind of where you're at today is a total depiction of how you show up, like how you show up in your book, how you show up on social media. You're so transparent and open and vulnerable. And it's just so refreshing because I think there's so much, fake AI and so many things out there that you just
Yeah.
don't even know what to believe anymore. But I just love how you show up as your true authentic self. I think your
Oh, thank
story
you.
is going to resonate with so many people.
Yeah.
But I love how you highlight just that identifying that. I think where you found yourself using these coping mechanisms almost to kind of create or continue that abusive environment, and I think that's so common for so many women that come out of these relationships and they don't even realize it. They've been uncomfortable for so long. Even once they leave the relationship, you find ways to kind of perpetuate that and continue that uncomfortable
Absolutely.
comfort
Yeah.
zone,
And that's
so
just it. You get so used to life feeling hard that we subconsciously make life hard, because that feeling hard becomes our baseline. That's what our
yeah.
nervous system becomes programmed to feel safe. So actually life feeling safe and life feeling chaotic is our sense of safety, which is the exact
Mhm.
opposite. And it's really confusing when you're just thinking about it, because you're like, but I want my life to be better and I want to feel better. But
Right.
why does this feel so familiar to me? And that's all
Mhm.
because of our nervous system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
a big piece of my identity was um, constantly sorting out the chaos, right? It's almost like you feel like you're wearing a super cape because you have all of these problems that are constantly, getting thrown at you left and right. And for me anyway, like the chaos became part of my identity.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I didn't know who I was without it. And it
Yeah.
was almost like I can do all of these things. It was an ego thing, right? Like I can do all of
Yeah.
these things and you
Yeah.
still won't break me. Um,
And who am I with once it's gone? Like
yeah,
who am I without that?
Yeah.
There's
I
kind of
went
an
through that with
identity.
alcohol too. Like I didn't know who I was. Like never would have I never would have considered at one point in my life giving up wine. Like wine was a huge thing. I had like all the I guess wine paraphernalia, t-shirts, cups,
Mommy
aprons,
sippy
all of
cup.
it.
Yeah.
And so that was just a little piece of my story anyway, is ingraining myself in all of these identities
Yeah.
um, that make you kind of forget who you are.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm. Yeah.
Kel, you've already answered. Susie, I'm going to skip down to
Okay.
I think maybe question 4.
Mhm.
Because I think Kel's already kind of answered like when she first realized that she was in an abusive relationship. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, were there any other red flags, Kel? I know you mentioned like having to ask permission to do things,
Yeah.
things that looking back you're like, oh, why didn't I see that? Or maybe I realize now I ignored those things because I just wanted to have be married or whatever it might be. Were there any other things
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It was really all of these like unspoken rules, like rules that were never really like said or established, but just kind of fell into place. Like, for example, I was not allowed to have friends. It sounds so
Mm,
weird when I say that now. Like, what do you mean you weren't allowed to have friends? I was not allowed to have friends. If I tried to like go to like a social thing with a friend, just like the experience I had from him, the control, the silent treatment, the critical comments that just like cut you to your soul. It was like, you
mm,
know what? No, I'd rather give you my power than not experience that. So even little things like that. And when we first got married, we both had very traditional jobs. We had like the 9 to 5. So our life was together, like a lot of relationships where we're together in the evenings or we're together on the weekends. And I had a bit more freedom because I had connection to the outside world. And then
mhm,
he got into real estate, and I quickly got into real estate as well. Ended up leaving my job completely. I was working as a speech therapist at the time. That's like what I went to school for, what I thought would be like my forever career. Got into real estate. And that's really when I lost all connection to the outside world. And that's
mm,
when things really began to spiral. And, that's when I started to just feel like this doesn't feel right. Like these things that he says to me and just ignoring my emotions and like the silent treatment, like how like what this doesn't feel like a
yeah,
normal relationship. So I was like on Instagram like saving all of the quotes about like abusive relationships, and I didn't really understand narcissism at the time, but how it came into my awareness was a woman that I knew. I think I knew her from the gym or something. She shared on her Facebook that she left a narcissistic marriage. And from what she shared, I was like, oh, like I even just like saying that
mhm,
now, like I have full body chills. I'm like, this is a thing. Like, whoa.
wow,
And then I had conversations with her, like in private, like at the grocery store, deleting any
mm,
evidence of it after. And then I'm like,
mhm,
oh my goodness, like there's something happening here. And that's really when I began to understand like there's a lot more. But meanwhile, I didn't know I could like leave. I was like praying that my husband would cheat on me so I would have a reason to leave the relationship,
mm,
because I didn't understand that, like, first of all, like me being unhappy and also being abused was reason enough. So it's
right.
it's a really it's a really interesting dynamic to be in because you're questioning your entire reality, and then you have
Right.
like information coming in, and it's like what's real and what's not. But there were
Totally.
all kinds of red flags, but I didn't know red flags were red flags back then. I thought they were like home decor. I just collected all of them. Like the more red flags, the better. The red flags to me were love, right? It's like nothing will break your heart more than realizing that all of your past relationships were rooted in trauma. So I
Right.
thought red flags were love. I thought that was like
Yeah.
what what I was like a partnership that I was
Yeah,
meant for.
those were
Mhm.
values.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for sharing those additional
Yeah.
things.
So, when we talked in our initial interview, one of the things that you mentioned in your healing journey was toxic positivity. Could
Mm.
you elaborate on that a little bit and tell us your thoughts on toxic positivity and what are some negative, well, one, what does toxic positivity look like? And what are some negative consequences to that approach?
Yeah, so for me, toxic positivity was just me gaslighting myself. And, I thought healing meant being like super high vibe and positive all the time. I thought negative emotions were a bad thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I left the relationship, I knew I needed some like positive influence in my life because I was just surrounded by such negativity within myself and also going through a very challenging divorce. And that's when I discover TED Talks. And TED Talks, I had never even like heard of podcasts before then, but I discovered TED Talks, and that was like my gateway to personal development. And I thought I could use, again, I didn't know this was happening at the time, but I thought I could just use personal development to bypass the whole healing part and
Mhm.
avoid like feeling emotion. So I'm like, I'll just like think positive and just be super high vibe all the time. And negative emotions, like we don't do that. We're just happy and positive and we're grateful. And crying, I feel sad. No, we're grateful. And like we're
Mhm.
literally just gaslighting ourselves. Toxic
Right.
positivity does not give you a positive life, it gives you a polluted one. And we're really dismissing our experience of being a human. We're dismissing and bypassing our emotions. But I thought that's what healing was. I thought healing meant you just never feel sad, you never feel angry, you never feel any kind of
Mhm.
emotion other than just like super happy
Mhm.
and like rah 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 high vibe. And that's not healing. That's being a robot, right? Like no, as
Right.
humans, we're meant to feel the full spectrum of emotions. Nervous system regulation is so important for this, though, because if we don't have the capacity to be with our experience, it's going to be really, really difficult to feel those emotions within our body. And we could talk more about that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
reached this place where I was like the queen of toxic positivity. I was always like, high vibe, roses and rainbows. Like I was that girl,
Mhm.
except I was struggling inside. I felt like
Mhm.
inside I was like suffering and in chaos, and I was completely just like avoiding it and ignoring it and just thinking it would go away, right? If I could just think another
Mhm.
positive thought, like surely it'll just make everything else I was experiencing and feeling just like disappear. But we're just sweeping things under the rug. Like you're not fooling anyone. It's like you see the lump right there, and it's like, nope, high vibes. So yeah, that
Mhm.
was a
Yeah.
big chapter of my life. And I'm like trying to live life with a smile on my face, pretending like everything is great. And meanwhile, inside, I feel like I'm dying. And
Right.
it's so lonely because you're showing up to the world as one way, and no one really knows like what you're experiencing inside, not even yourself, because you're trying to avoid that experience.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really normal for people again coming out of these relationships to feel like they should be positive. Like I just got through this really horrible thing. I should be happy now. Everything goes back to sunshine and rainbows, but it's not the case. There's a lot of healing that has to be done after
Yeah.
that type of an
No, and
experience.
in
So,
some ways, it feels like a big like contradiction because it's like, yes, I'm no longer in that controlling and abusive situation. I'm grateful for that, but also like we're still carrying everything from that. So it's like, yes, I'm grateful for this newfound freedom, but also nobody talks about how overwhelming freedom can feel when your life has been controlled for so long. So there's lots of like duality with the experience. And that
Yeah.
was, I don't want to say I made mistakes on the healing journey because I don't believe in mistakes. We're always doing the best that we can with the information and resources that we have, and also we're learning the lessons that we need to learn. But for me, I didn't realize the significance of the emotional healing from an emotionally abusive relationship.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about just healing modalities. You talked a little bit
Yeah,
about your first step in doing talk therapy, which, like you said, can be very, very effective. But I do want to spend some time on the other things that you tried, because I think a lot of people, again, that's the first thing they turn to. But when you come out of these relationships, when you have this nervous system disruption, and there's very brain inflammation in different parts of your brain and things like that, talk therapy only goes so far.
yeah,
And it can actually be re-traumatizing if you're telling your story over and over again. So I'm just curious if you can share, if you can think back, what were two healing modalities that you felt were the most effective and had the biggest impact on your healing and growth after this
yeah.
abusive relationship?
Hands down, without a doubt. And these are truly like pillars of my coaching that I do now. Somatic healing. So, somatics being your body. So,
Mhm.
healing through movement. And a big part of that is nervous system regulation. Like that, without a doubt, is probably the most important and significant thing after these relationships. And honestly, for everyone in general, because most people in our current day and age have some degree of nervous system dysregulation. Add in the experience of being in a toxic or abusive relationship, and you're living in survival mode and experiencing trauma, your nervous system needs a lot of love. So, nervous
Mhm.
system regulation is so important. Nobody nobody mentioned my nervous system once. Once,
Right.
and I'm not coming from this of a place of like, nobody told me, but it's really, really important. Like, it's probably like the foundation to support actually healing, creating
Mhm.
internal safety, because you do not feel safe when you leave these relationships, and you have not felt safe for a really long time. So creating internal safety is everything. And the somatics aspect is also so important because you have to feel in order to heal. I'm sure most of us have heard that saying. It's true. I tried the opposite. I tried to skip that part. I tried to think my way out. But if you're thinking your feelings, that's called thinking. That's actually creating a loop and also
Mhm.
reinforcing a lot of either trauma bonds or just reinforcing stories that we're holding and carrying on to. You feel with your body. You have to be connected to your body. You have to feel safe to be present in your body. And most of the time, we disconnect from our body because we have a lot of emotions and things that don't feel safe to be with. So we disconnect, and then we're in our head and we're thinking our emotions, and we're just pushing them down even more. So
Mhm.
emotions are energy in motion. That means they have to move and they have to flow, and you have to feel in order to heal. That happens through the body. That's the somatics piece. So, somatic healing, nervous system healing, so, so important, along with inner child healing. And this
Mhm.
has just been such a huge, huge part of my own personal journey, and really recognizing how the wounds that my inner child was carrying were really kind of driving my behavior as an adult. Your inner child being the childhood version of you who still exists within you. Here's my inner child.
Mhm.
She hangs out with me.
What a cute
So,
picture. So
isn't
cute.
she so cute? Look at the bangs.
Adorable.
I mean,
Oh my
did
gosh. I
you
had bangs like
did
I
you
had bangs like
did
that
you
too.
did you
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
did you even grow up in the 80s if you did not have like
Oh
full solid bangs?
no.
I
Um,
cut mine off. My mom always swore that I did it right before picture day because there were so many pictures of me with like a cut full of bangs, right? Like Dumb and Dumber. Like,
that's
Oh,
because
so
I just
funny.
love to just cut my own hair.
so
Oh,
cute.
that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but inner child healing really allows you to understand how your experiences in life as a child really programmed your subconscious. And, we all have childhood trauma. And at first, when I first heard that, I'm like, no, I had a great childhood. Like, my parents love me. What do you mean? I don't have childhood trauma. And childhood trauma doesn't mean that you had like bad parents or you had a bad childhood. Sometimes it absolutely does. But sometimes it just means that your needs were not met in the way that you needed them to. So we all have our own unique experience of childhood. And it's through understanding our childhood self that we're able to really see how we recreate situations to really receive love. And we show up in ways that we were taught this is how I show up to feel loved, to feel accepted, to have my needs met. And it wasn't until probably about 2022 where I really saw how I just recreated the relationship with my dad in my marriage. And I was like, whoa, like it was so obvious for me
Mm.
then. No,
Yeah.
like didn't see it at all at the time. But again, those were childhood wounds. And our our childhood solutions become adult, I don't want to say problems because none of this is really a problem. We're not like problems to be solved, but they become adult situations that may not really be aligned with or supporting the life we desire to live.
The
Mm.
behavioral pattern that I describe them as behavioral patterns. And it's
Yeah.
not it's just it's a learned behavior that starts really young that we just don't realize we're doing it. And
Mhm.
as you've been preaching this entire time, like as it comes to your awareness and you acknowledge it, that's how you kind of change the pattern and try to move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. And just
Mhm.
the awareness is everything because
Yep.
I blamed myself for the relationship for so long. Like, why did you stay for so long? And how did you not know? Why did you settle? Why did you tolerate so much less than you deserve? But now I can see like it truly was this initiation of sorts. It was like my soul and like the most ancient parts in me waking up, and the awareness then is like showing you like no, this is now you get to walk this path of healing, you get to walk this path of transformation, and you actually didn't do anything wrong, you did everything right. But now that you see it, now that you have the awareness of it, you have a choice and you get to choose
Mhm.
yourself. And it's the most beautiful journey that you get to go on, this journey home to yourself, this journey home to your truth, and of really discovering like who you really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, so
beautiful.
yeah, it really is. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Should we jump to our last question, Heather? Oh, did we lose her? Oh, there she is.
Yeah, she's
We
back.
lost you
I don't yeah,
first.
my screen went black for a second. Is that
Yeah,
are we good?
Yeah,
Am
we're
I
we're
good, we
good.
see
still
you.
here?
You're still with us. I just said, should we jump to our last question? I think we covered the next one as well.
Yes. So, what advice would you give the woman who has found herself in this place out of the relationship and knows she has healing work to do, but is unsure where to even start?
Yeah. First of all, my love, congratulations. Like when women come to me now and they are like either like right out of a toxic relationship or perhaps they've been out but still feel trapped and controlled by it, because healing has no timeline. You could leave a relationship, it could have been 5 years ago, and it's just as painful as if you left yesterday. Like there's really no timeline for any of this. But when I hear that now, I actually get so excited. Like it sounds weird, but I'm like so excited because I'm like, babe, do you even know how good it's about to get? Like, this is
Oh.
the catalyst for everything, for everything. And it's like the moments, like your real life begins. It's so, so beautiful. Now, this isn't like a toxic positivity thing. Like, it sucks. It sucks. Not a fun time.
It's
Like, let's
hard. Yeah.
honor the suck.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
challenging, absolutely, but it's also the beginning of everything. So if
Can
you
I
are
print
like
that,
just
Kel?
starting, what's that?
Honor the suck. I'm going to print that and put it right above my
Yeah,
desk.
Yes.
celebrate the shit, right? It's like
Yeah.
we it's not about being I mean, I can now say I've reached a place where I am grateful for the experience because it allowed me to become who I am today, which is so, so beautiful. But yeah, let's celebrate the shit. And I acknowledge that it sucks. Like it's not fun. Like really, really difficult, the most pain that you've ever experienced and every aspect of being physically, emotionally, spiritually. But just holding that vision of like this has some deeper purpose. There's some deeper meaning to this. This isn't just to punish me, right? Like pain isn't here to punish us. It's here to teach us. It's here to burn away everything that we're not, to really discover who we really are. So the first thing is you have to choose this. You have to choose it for yourself.
Oh, it's not showing my
Oh,
book.
you no, you can read it
Hold
though.
it. Yeah. What
It's
does it
not
say?
working. The book Finding Meaning in the Misfortune is the name of the chapter. Sorry, Kel, that was not
I
supposed to
love
be so
that. No,
intrusive.
no, but that's exactly it because
Yeah.
we get to decide the meaning that we give to our experiences in life. So if you're telling yourself this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, my life is over, then it is. It is. That's
Mhm.
your truth. And if you're telling yourself, this sucks, I am not having a good time, like, I do not even see that light at the end of the tunnel, and I kind of see a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's probably a train. Like, yeah, honor that, but know and choose there's something for me in this. And it's a
Mhm.
choice that you have to make again and again and again. So find ways to remember that. Find ways to remember what you are choosing because yes, there is a loss of self, a loss of the person that maybe you thought you would spend your life with, the life that you thought you would have. There's so much grief, like the catalyst, the depths of the grief just like is so so deep. But for the loss, there's also a gain. So what are you gaining? What are you choosing? And really like anchor that in and create some reminder of that. I actually got a tattoo, the
Hmm.
lotus.
It's
And
pretty.
because just the symbolism of it, right? Like the lotus is
Mhm.
this beautiful flower that it grows through the mud, it grows through the shit.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm
Yeah.
getting a tattoo. We need to remember this, that like there's some
Love that.
beautiful ending at the end of this. And it's a choice. And another thing I would say is get support. Like truly, truly get support in mentors and coaches and community because you don't have to walk this path alone. And
Mhm.
you know, you can figure out healing on your own for sure. I mean, I did. You probably did, Susie and Heather as well. But
Mhm.
like there's so many detours that aren't really necessary. Like, allow
Right.
yourself to receive that support. Let people like hold you and guide you and show you. And no one can do this work for you, but like, you don't have to do it on your own. And that's like one of the most rewarding and fulfilling parts about my life now and living in purpose is like, I get to be who I needed, which is just so, so
Yeah.
beautiful. But yeah, and
Mhm.
even if you're not in a place or you're maybe if you're listening to this, like you have some incredible resources right here between the three of us, but
Yeah.
prioritize your nervous system. Like prioritize your nervous system, create safety within yourself. But more than anything, just know that this is the beginning of anything and everything that you desire and choose that for yourself regardless of like what your external reality and what your internal thoughts might be telling you right now, like it truly is just the beginning.
Mhm.
I love that.
Oh, I love that too. What a great way to wrap up our questions with that response. It's just beautiful. So,
Mm,
As you were talking,
thank
I just
you.
kept wanting to say, follow the breadcrumbs.
yeah.
Mhm.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, do we have any questions come in, Heather, from your end, or Kel
Let me
from your
see.
side? Anything before we?
We do have some folks on watching. If you are watching from Instagram, if you have any questions for Kel, Susie, or myself, if you could drop them in the chat, we would be happy to answer anything that you have.
Yes, I should have said that at the beginning, but I just wanted to see if anything had come through as we were chatting. But as we wait to see if any questions come in, Kel, can you just tell the viewers where they can find you if they're interested in following you or learning more about the work that you do for people on their
Yeah.
healing journey?
So probably Instagram is the best way to connect. I hang out a lot on there and share a lot of content. My Instagram is I am Kel Cal. And my book is also available on Amazon as an ebook or paperback copy. My podcast is in a bit of a transitional phase. I released the last episode of what was known as Dear Dumb Bitch last June, almost a year ago. And I will be relaunching in June, exactly 1 year later,
Yay.
which is like less
Awesome.
than 2 weeks away. So I'm like, ooh, let's get started on that. But yes, it'll be out with a new name. So all of that information will be on my Instagram as well.
Can you say what your
Awesome.
username is again?
I am Kel Cal, which
Kel.
my name has had its own spiritual evolution as well.
Mm,
So
You
right.
know, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you said that because every time Susie and I would meet, I would say Cal, and I would say, why do I keep calling her Cal? I wonder if it's because
yeah,
I saw it
so
on Instagram.
yeah, so it started off my name according to the US government is actually Kelly Kalia. And as I
Ah,
began stripping away layers of myself, I started stripping away letters of my name and it became Kel Cal. Then it became Kel Karuna when I just felt this beautiful connection to the word Karuna, which is actually a Sanskrit word that means compassion. And the act of compassion towards self, compassion towards others. And that was another missing piece on my own healing journey for so long, compassion towards self, which a side effect of trauma is it takes away self-compassion, but
mm,
self-compassion is needed to heal trauma. So it really
mhm.
is like the foundation for my work, compassion, the Karuna way. So then it became Cal Karuna, then Cal just completely stripped away. So now it's Kel Karuna, but I'm like, my book is published under this, my Instagram is this. There's still some loose ends, but that's kind of like the inconsistency is with my name.
It's evolving and it's going to become what
It's
it's meant to
forever
become, right?
evolving.
Yeah.
I don't think Kel Karuna is the final name. We'll see. I'm not here to
Yeah.
decide that.
We'll stay tuned and see where you
Yeah.
end up with your name. So super exciting. All right. Well, shall we go ahead and close it out, Heather?
Yeah. So just really quick, if any of you still listening are interested in joining, Susie and I have a Rise and Thrive. We have a free Facebook group that's in my link tree. We also have a school subscription that's just $19 a month right now. We have bi-monthly meetings, group meetings. We have courses in there and an active community where you can ask questions and you have access to both Susie and I, and that comes with a 7 free day trial. We have some upcoming workshops if you want to get in there and kind of check out what we have coming in the next couple of months. Until then, thank you all for joining us on this episode of Rise and Thrive Women. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to take charge of your healing journey, whether it's a new perspective, renewed hope, or the courage to move forward. It is something worth celebrating.
And remember, your story is still unfolding and your past does not define you. Within you lies strength, power, and limitless potential. Trust and follow your intuition with courage. Be bold, be brave, and always trust yourself. Until we meet again, take care, rise above, and thrive. You've got this. And thank
Thanks,
you again, Kel, for
everybody.
being here. It was so good to
Oh,
see
thank you. Such an honor.
you. Good night, ladies. Bye, everybody.
Bye.